Welcome, one and all, from across the country. Today is June 2nd, 2016, and this is Mastermind call number 77. Great turnout as always. We have one person in the queue. Just a reminder, hit *6 and then hit 1 if you would like to actively participate in the call. Partners, anybody have anything they want to share with the group before we get started?
I was just going to point out that it's the summertime. It's a time where people are frequently chasing around trying to figure out how to do good things to keep their business rocking during the time that everybody's off on vacation. And like they say about taxes and death, one thing that's for sure is that we're in an industry that it isn't seasonal for the most part. And so this is a good time for you to focus on your probate business and help it grow, and we're here to help you. So we look forward to helping you have a great summer.
Excellent. Chad, anything you want to share from a training perspective?
Just if anybody's on this call and you didn't make it to the role play call yesterday, it was one of the best ones we've done. It is posted in the Facebook group, and I did email it to everybody yesterday evening, I don't know, around 5 or 6. So if you can just take 30 minutes today and listen to that, there's some really, really great ideas about how you can crack the attorney marketing code and how you can get in front of the probate attorney as well as the trust and estate planning attorneys. We had 3 or 4 topics and role plays during that, but one of the best role play calls we've done. So if you've got some time, it's a great way to spend a half an hour.
We're on a roll. We're on a roll here. Good role play call. Good probate webinar call yesterday. So we're expecting big things from you guys. Ask us some great questions or make some great comments. Tom, anything you want to share from a customer service perspective? He probably has us muted out. I know if he... You there, Tom? Anyway,
Tom died.
It's all right. He's there. I know one thing we try to share every call. We can't say it too many times. We have 4 partners and we have 5 employees. And we all have our own little niche at what we're good at. Some of us more than one thing, but the best way to get help with any aspect of our service is to send an email to support@alltheleads.com. Everybody reads that. Somebody will normally get back to you. I think our average response time is about 18 minutes, so somebody will get right back to you and help you with whatever you're having an issue with. So we just like to repeat that every week. And again, we got a ton of people on the call. We only have one person so far in the queue. Hit *6, please, and then hit 1. And we're going to go ahead and open it up to our first person. I think I recognize the phone number. Phone number ending in 3199. You're up.
Yes, it's Jim Gilbert in Fort Ritchie, Florida. And
hey, Jim.
I'm new, as you know, and I'm still working on my first set of leads. I've been making my phone calls. And what I've been finding out, the first thing I try to find out is if they did receive my letter, my first mail-out letter. And a lot of them say, oh, no, I haven't seen it, And actually, I've had a couple of them call me back and say, yeah, I did get your letter. So I just wanted to mention that, maybe sometimes we think that they're not getting them, but they really are.
Good. Well, thank you for that. How's it going so far in your conversations, Jim? You sent the letters out. You're just starting to make the calls?
I've got, I think I got about 60 calls made. I've got, actually one lady yesterday said they're working on getting the house ready. She said she sounded real enthusiastic, wanted me to call her back in about 2 weeks, pretty sure about letting me list it. And I've got a couple other that seem like they could be, I could get them signed up, but I'm just kind of working through the other ones, and then I'm going to call them back and kind of follow up. And another thing I'm doing, and I'm sure you guys know this, it's been in a while, you really got to use all 3 or 4, how many ever numbers you got to just go through all of them if you're going to try to get through to these people.
Yep. Yeah,
hey, Jim, can I give you some pointers?
I'd love some pointers.
So letting that opportunity sit there for 2 weeks means you're giving every realtor in your market a chance to take your listing. So find any reason you can to go over to the house, meet with them, give them some value. And I hear this a lot, and this is something that a lot of new agents just say, okay, yeah, I'll call you back, and then they end the call. And the goal is keep that call going and find a reason to get over there and just say, well, listen, it's, spring market is really strong right now. A lot of times they'll say, well, Jim, the house is a mess. We got to get this stuff cleaned out. And for me, it's usually, listen, you have no idea what we've seen. Like, I guarantee you it's not as bad as some of the homes that we go into. What I want to do, Jim, is go ahead and kind of get a head start so we can lay out kind of a marketing schedule and know when our photographers are going to get in. So can we just meet up at the house for maybe 15 minutes on Friday just so I can take a quick look and kind of get it on our listing schedule? And maybe you layer in there, I'll bring you a CMA or a market absorption analysis so we can kind of get you can start to get a feel for the market. Just whatever it is, find a reason to get face-to-face so you can build rapport with them. Take a pre-filled listing agreement with you. Because if I have to do this, I will forward date. I'll date the listing agreement today, and then the date the listing goes active will be, the future date. So it's, this agreement signed on is one date. That's when the legal date of the listing. And then in our listing agreement, there's a second date in paragraph 2 that says, the listing term will be date X to Y. So I'll just forward date that date X is, 2 weeks from now. But I'll go ahead and get the listing agreement signed, and I'll use something like a photography schedule or a market listing schedule or some reasoning that fits in your business that seems, that's genuine to go ahead and get that done. And that'll help them push through that procrastination. And I'm not a pushy salesperson at all, but I've had so many people try to do that, and there was really no basis to the objection. They just haven't sold a house in a long time. They're not sure how the process works. They think waiting is fine. So just apply a little bit of pressure there in the form of, value, like get in front of them and give them something that would be of value to them. And you'll start taking those listings, and then you'll be putting them on MLS a couple of weeks or a couple of months from now. And even if she would have said, Jim, can you call me back next month? I would still say the same thing. Well, yeah, sure, I can do that. I'll put you on the call for a follow-up. But listen, I think it's good if, wouldn't you feel better if you knew kind of what your position was? You guys can start planning and we can start planning, get it into our listing schedule, but you can know about what the home's worth and kind of discuss that early with the family. Just find a way to get in front of them. And once you do, you're going to impress the heck out of them because you're going to offer more than any realtor they ever expected a realtor to offer.
Well, you're absolutely right because I've had several of them tell me, too, that, they've gotten other letters from other realtors. And so there are other realtors in my area that's working these leads, too. And you're absolutely right. I got to pick up the game a little bit better.
So can you do this today? Can you call her? Can you think of a reason that you need to be in front of her tomorrow and set that appointment before we're in the business today?
Yeah, I think I can. Yeah. I'm going to make some more calls today. Yeah.
Make her your first one.
Okay. I'll do it. Thank you.
Good job, Coach. Anything else, Jim? Any other places you're getting stuck or anything else you need help with?
No. Well, I tell you, it takes longer to make these calls than what I thought it would. I mean, it takes some time. If you don't get them on the first one, you try it on the second, and then you maybe leave messages, and they call you back. So it does take time.
Sure.
I want to share some statistics with you guys. So we've had a professional ISA making these calls, and it was interesting to me, just so you guys can start to kind of block out your time and see what it's going to take. So a professional ISA is calling at a pace of about 100 leads per 8 hours. So if you have 100 leads in your market, you should be accounting about, blocking out about 8 hours of prospecting time per 100 leads. And that's calling all 5 numbers, leaving voicemails, and having conversations. But that's about the pace that you could expect when you're prospecting. And if you look at the MIT study that we have in step 5 of subscriber resources, the best times, we've said this many times before, but it's worth repeating, the difference between a initial contact and a follow-up is the range here. But if you call during these times, you're 114 to 168% more likely to make contact and convert a lead. And those times it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. So you've got a total of 15 hours of prospecting, like prime prospecting blocks per week. So on that, if you had a list of 150 leads, that would fill your 15 hours. But anyways, just if for those of you that haven't really done this and don't know how much time to allocate, that's what we found to be kind of a reasonable time block.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Jim. We got one other person in the queue. Thank you for that. And we got time for 4 or 5 more at least. So please, any thoughts, questions, comments, hit *6 and then hit 1, and we'll go to the next person. Thanks for your comments, Jim. Thanks for participating. All right, 2996, phone number ending in 2996. You're up.
Hello, guys. This is Jared. I'm out in California.
Hey, welcome.
Probably like many people on this call, so I'm new as well and just working my first list of leads.
Great.
And so I have similar question as the Jim's there was, so I was talking to a lady and it just didn't know when's the optimal time to get that list letter. So it sounds like what I'm hearing is we should be getting that right away, huh?
Yeah, and in California, you're asking when's the right time to take the listing. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you're in a very, very competitive state,
mm-hmm.
and you're in a state that also the probate process is one of the longest in the country.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of agents have the misconception that you can't list until the court tells you. You can list the home anytime. The personal representative can list at any time they want. Now, in California, it does have to be, the sale has to be approved by the court if they haven't petitioned the probate clerk for full power and have a fidelity bond. So, and the long and short of it is list the property yesterday is the best time to have listed it.
Yeah, right.
Today's just as good. So get it listed as quickly as you can, or somebody else will. And then part of what you do is help them guide through navigate the rest of the process on when they can close the transaction. A really good piece of advice that Jim often gives is list the property, go back to your desk and call the probate attorney and say, I'm calling about the estate of Jane Doe, docket number 3457. Can I speak to Attorney Jones? And introduce yourself to Attorney Jones and say, listen, I just met with Jane. We've got the property list. I just wanted to let you know and see if there's any timelines that I need to be aware of that you're working under. And, show him that you want to cooperate with him and you want to be more professional than any other realtor he's ever worked with. So list the property, call the attorney, and then what you're also doing at the same time is building a referral relationship with that attorney.
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
And
so,
one thing Chad just said, we talked about on the role play call, if you just call and say, this is, Bob Jones Realtor, can I speak to Attorney Johnson, you're going to get the gatekeeper. But if you call and reference a particular seller and a particular docket number, they're pretty much obligated to talk to you. I just got off the phone with Mr. Johnson. He asked me to reach out to Attorney Smith and need to get some information to help him sell his property. That call is going to either get right through to the attorney or he is going to call you back. So you just really increased your chances of being able to get a warm introduction to that attorney. And you do need to know anyway. I mean, it's a legitimate reason for calling them. Find out when, in California, if it's a protracted closing date, if you call and the attorney says, well, we're going to close in about 4 months, then the only thing I would do differently, I'd probably get a little bit longer listing just in case. And, might as well. And I would just put in the MLS comments, probate in progress, please date contracts to close on or after, August 15th. So, but, it is a contingency, but it's certainly a lot better than a lot of contingencies like short sales because it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. It's not if
Right.
if the probate's going to get approved. It will get approved. It's just a matter of setting a realistic time frame.
Right. Right.
So
Do you guys have any benefit? What would be some good language to position it to the seller as a benefit to list it now? Because, for example, the ladies I talked to, she was like, "Oh yeah, we'll worry about getting it sold about 6 months from now." So I think in her mind, she'll sell it when she wraps up the probate.
What town are you in? What city?
Palmdale, so north of LA.
Okay. And I'm guessing your real estate values are about where they were in 2007, where some people are starting to shake their heads.
Yeah, so we're still a little bit below that. We've popped up, so we went down about 50-60%. We're up about 40.
Okay. Depending on, so certain parts of California, I feel like are very close to a correction.
Mm-hmm.
And that will probably, it's likely to have a ripple effect throughout the country. What I would probably say is, Ms. Smith, as a person who looks at the market every day,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of see, there's a good chance the market may correct. I think it's in your best interest to sell now versus risking, waiting another 6 months, because what's happening up in the Bay Area and the Sacramento market could impact us if that market corrects, and they're really hot right now. But if one of those markets correct and the buyers, freeze, then we could see another free fall like we did back in 2007 or whenever your last correction was. So I don't know your market obviously nearly as well as you, but I would look at that and see if you can create urgency. Only if you believe it's in her best interest. If you think you can make an extra $100,000 by waiting, then throw that out. That's not good advice. But it's just one way to look at it. The other thing I would say is look at your market volumes. And school just let out. So most markets throughout the country, you'll see a spike in volume over the next 90 days. You'll see a big spike in volume. So it can be in her best interest to be on the market during that highest volume period of the year. And you could use that to create some urgency. So we're much more likely to, statistically, we're much more likely to find our buyer in the next 90 days. If we wait 6 months, we're going into the holidays, and we may have to wait another 3 months to clear, the holidays and the winter market. It could be almost this time next year before you sell. So can you see where it would be in your benefit to kind of take advantage of this summer market right now, Miss Seller? Okay, cool. How about we, no commitment, but if we sit down on Friday and you like what you see and you feel comfortable, we could move forward. So how's Friday at 3 look for you? And just, find those points of urgency. Maybe it's the market, maybe it's the timing. But look at it from those different angles and see, hearing those two ideas, what do you think is the biggest reason she should list now versus November or December?
Well, yeah, exactly what you said, just the seasonality of the market. We want to take advantage of the best time of the market. Exactly. So, and then, it's better to have, and we're in very tight inventory here, so it could say it's better to have that buyer waiting for when you're able to sell, because the buyers will wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think, that seasonality, I don't want to get into the holiday seasons. That's perfect.
Excellent.
And
two more people in the queue. Do you have a follow-up? Go ahead.
No, thank you guys. That was great. That's great stuff.
Oh, I didn't mean to rush you. If you got another question, feel free. You good?
No, that's good.
Okay, great. I like the tone of I like the trend of the questions here. It's I'm getting a lot of leads. How do I close them? That's a good trend. That's a good sign. All right. The next person, phone number ends in 5653. You're up.
Hey Jim, Adrian Tan here, Los Angeles. How are you?
Hey, welcome my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I had and thanks for having me on the call. By the way, we're really enjoying getting through all these leads here in Los Angeles. And Jerry coming onto the call, I think, answered a bunch of questions that we were looking at, which was okay because we're getting a bunch of people saying I got to wait until the court date and see what happens there. There's a bunch that have said that obviously they already are working with someone. So it's just really a matter of timing and how do we get into the door. And I've gotten a bunch of nuggets from this call already, and I think I've got most of my questions answered, to be honest with you, Jim.
Well, Adrian, thank you. Go ahead. Question?
One, just to tag on to that, what I would say, you said you want to wait until they see what the court has to say, or however you put that. I would ask a question. I love good questions to kind of, because they don't really. I would guess they probably don't really know what's going to happen in court.
Right.
So, well, tell me, Ms. Smith. Like, I understand you want to wait and see what the court has to say, but do you understand why the court is even part of the probate process? It's really to protect the consumer. And I think, by now, you can trust that I'm trying to get you the most money in the shortest amount of time. That's what we do, and that's what our selling system is designed for. So, our goal is to push the price as high as we possibly can on your property. The court is only there as a kind of a safety net to make sure I don't undercut, the market and sell your price for too little. They're there for your protection. But so the point I'm making is, if we list the property at retail or higher and we can push the price as we do with all of our listings, when we get to court, they're going to be as happy as can be because they're going to realize you chose the right realtor and you've gotten a fair or more than fair price.
I love it.
Does that make sense? And I would just build on that.
Gotcha. Yeah, if they did, I can see where you're coming from there because most of them are like in that transitional stage, a lot of emotions going through, and they don't know what's happening. There's a little fear and the unknown there, I think. So I like how if I could put it out there, hey, this is just a safety net. I think we could make it work. Thanks.
Hey,
so something that we teach in Mastery that is kind of the common denominator on this call is what I call probate quicksand, and they're just emotionally frozen. And what I tell everybody, as I said before, I'm never a pushy salesperson. I always put their interest before my own. But if I feel like they are standing in their own way and waiting or not making a decision is not in their best interest, then I apply pressure. And I'll do it in the form of guidance. And understanding your probate process and what happens in that process is usually the best way to do that. And so it's a lot of times has to do with personal property or not fully understanding the system and not having any expectations, so not doing anything. They're just waiting for more information. And you can be the information so they don't have to wait on the court as long as you understand the process and can make them feel comfortable and pull them out of that probate quicksand.
Gotcha. Great.
Adrian, I can hear people on the call. Two things. I can hear people that are not in California saying, oh, no, do I need to go get court approval? Don't worry, guys. It only applies to California. It's one of the few places in the country where you need court approval. The other thing I would appreciate if you would share, Adrian, like Jim said he's got 100 leads and how much time it takes to call them. How many leads did you get in your first batch?
Oh, gosh. Our first batch, I believe we got about 400.
Yeah, so 400 leads. That's awesome. Yeah.
Now it's just for us. It's just about calendaring, and we loaded into I loaded into Mojo, so I can dial with 3 numbers. Great. And so I've been using the database there, the management system there, to at least calendar the court dates because they will tell me if I get through enough of the questions. And now I can actually go back, and now that I know that I can use these lines, I can probably get an appointment sooner than later.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on both you and Jim taking action. You're not waiting for something to happen. You're taking action right out of the box. And I've known you for a long time, Adrian. You're going to kill it with these leads. So
thanks,
congrats.
Thanks, man.
All right, buddy. Thank you very much. One more person in the queue, and that timing is perfect. We've got about 6 or 7 minutes. We probably do have time for one more. If there's anyone else, hit *6 and then hit 1. Otherwise, phone number ending in 3757. You may be our last for the day. You're up.
Okay, this is Kurt Ness in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Hey, Kurt.
And two short questions. Number one, on my leads, what I did initially, and I guess I'm getting second thoughts, we went through and screened out the ones that did not have real estate and only sent to those. And it was about 60% of the leads that had real estate, and I did not mail out anything to them. I'm getting from listening to past webinars or whatever, getting the impression that maybe that's not the best approach to take. So just touch on that quickly, and then I got a question concerning the letters that are being sent out.
Absolutely. You want to handle that, Chad, or you want me to?
Sure, I'll take it. So that's something that, we've been talking a lot about this in the last couple of weeks. It really depends on what you want from these leads. If you just want listings, then you might say you did the right thing by scrubbing those out. But all those other people is, this is direct marketing. So we know that they're in a very stressful situation. We know that they probably could use some professional guidance. We know that they're statistically going to inherit about $177,000. So there's a very likely a lot of buyers in that list as well as sellers. They may list their primary residence with you and upgrade as soon as the inheritance distribution has been made. They may invest with you and start a rental portfolio. You might be able to put them in 3 or 4 rental houses. So you never know where these conversations may go, but you do know that you've got a person in a very stressful situation that you probably understand better than they do. And they really, as I said before, they probably don't have expectations. They're dealing with the emotional side of this. They haven't really looked at the potential of ways that they could benefit from it. So as a real estate professional, you can have those conversations, ask them, well, hey, listen, even if the property is already sold, a lot of people just hang up the phone and they're like, oh, it's already sold. Someone beat me. But why not take an extra step? Ask a good question. Well, hey, listen, congratulations. Did you get what you wanted from it? Awesome. So what do you guys have plans to reinvest that? Or have you thought about maybe upgrading your home, buying rental property? Can I introduce you to my financial advisor to put together an investment and estate plan so your family never has to go through the probate process again? So those 40% that you kind of pushed aside, there's still plenty of opportunity in there for things like that. The other thing is people can own property in more than one county, obviously. So if you're just scrubbing against one single county, you could be missing opportunities in second home markets, neighboring counties. If they own 12 investment properties on the other side of town that's in a different county, you could miss some of those opportunities. And we've had, enough stories over the last couple of years of people just uncovering diamonds. There's one gentleman that on his first round of calls uncovered an $8 million commercial out parcel listing. So you never know what you're going to get there. I think what's important is that those 40% that you kind of pushed aside is have the right mindset when you're calling them. Don't think I've got to get a listing. Just think, how can I help this person?
Okay. The second question I had was, when I would call, I would leave a message and basically say, this is Kurt Ness. I'm just following up on the letter that I sent you. Just wanted to clarify some things. You get a chance, give me a call back, and I'd leave my number. And if they had multiple numbers in the system, I would leave that on everything. And and I talked with you originally. I don't know if you remember. My very first call, I had a very disgruntled husband. And I'm running about out of the 60 calls that I made, I got 3 disgruntled executors, and it was ironic. The one because we had done the second mailing, and I had set up the system that I tried today, and then through the calls, and then a week later I tried, and then a week later. And ironically, she'd gotten the second letter, and I had left the recorded message, calling again, hey, this is Kurt Ness, just following up on the letter. And my question is, I'm coming to the conclusion that after I've called initially and left that recorded or that message to call me back, when I call the second time or third, if nobody answers or if I get an answering machine, don't even leave a message. And I was just curious on what your thoughts were on that. So that I'm trying to, obviously, this 5% that is disgruntled, I'm trying to dance around those, and maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill.
So what I've found, and people that say, take me off your list, don't ever call me again. It's much easier to develop some real quick, like deflective sales language that it is to try to get that granular with your campaign and track the ones that don't want to be called. And when you get 3 months worth of lists, it's not going to happen. You're not going to have a good system. You'll pull your hair out trying to find a system. So it's much easier to just say, oh my gosh, you know what? We order all of our mail at the same time. I'll definitely do my best, but if you get another letter, just throw that in the trash. Don't take it personally. We try to, in the interest of time, we order all of our mail at one time. So just let them know there might be more mail coming. And then you could say, well, listen, if it's a phone call, and so let's say they pick up live and they say, I told you we weren't, like, oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. When I get in this database and I start dialing, I'm like a juggernaut. So sorry about that. Have a great day. So it's easier to just deflect that and just kind of put it behind you real quickly than it is to try to track and say, well, remove this person from my mailing, remove this one, like, don't ever call him again.
Or don't leave them voicemail. It's hard to keep track of.
One thing I will say is that in the new system that we're getting ready to introduce you guys to, we have a do not call, do not mail, do not email opt-out. So when you are prospecting directly from the new system, which I can't wait for you guys to see, you'll be able to say, okay, they told me not to call, and you'll mark them as a do not call internally. So the next time you're prospecting that list, you'll have, you'll basically have a flag there that says they're on my do not mail list, they're on my do not call list. And it's all internal. It's not like they're on the national do not call. But for you, as you're prospecting, we're making that as simple as clicking a button going forward. So it will be easy. It will be easy to track, once we get that new system rolled over. But right now, it's much easier to just come up with a quick little blurb to roll with that punch and just move on.
Okay. I was making calls last night. I got a hold of one of the parties, and she indicated, yes, she's got real estate, but she says, I've got so many things going on. My, mother just dying. I just can't handle all this stuff. And my comeback was, I understand you've got that letter. When do you think that you're going to be addressing this? And she said, well, in the next 30 to 60 days. I said, okay, what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, I'll touch back with you then, and that way it gives you a chance to kind of let the dust settle. Should I have pushed her more, or is that an acceptable approach?
Not being on the call and kind of hearing her emotional distress, I'm going to assume that she's just out of her comfort zone, but she's ready to move forward. She's at least engaged in that much of the conversation. So as long as she's not like cut to the bone grieving, and I think it's in her best interest to go ahead and start making plans to list it, I would push a little bit there. So I would start with empathy. Yeah, listen, Ms. Smith, I completely understand. What we find is most of the folks, when we first talk to them, we have this exact same conversation, and that's really a big part of what we do, is try to take as much stress off your plate as possible. And for most families, 80% of the estate is actually contained in the real estate. And we've identified 80 variables in our own selling process that we manage. So if we can take a bunch of that off of your plate and make your life easier, I think it's better for us to meet sooner than later, don't you? And I would try to just help her understand, because a lot of people don't realize all that goes into selling a home, and you kind of have to help them compartmentalize this sometimes. So I would help her understand that you can take the vast majority of the responsibility off her plate by selling the largest asset in the estate, and makes her life a lot better because she takes the time to meet with you than it would to just sit and wait and deal with it all on her own. And by the way, we're not attorneys and we're not going to give legal advice, but we do have a lot of experience with probate. We understand the process, and we can help you navigate that and answer some questions that may not even be real estate related. So is Friday at 3 a good time to just sit down and talk a little bit?
Okay.
And then Friday at 3, you can take that a little further and get the listing.
Excellent. I don't want to cut you off. We have one more person in the queue, and we're really running long today.
Okay. I'll catch you later.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Do you have a short follow-up, or are you good?
One other quick question. If I'm dealing where I'm calling and I know it's the surviving spouse living in the same house, the house, and they've said no, that they're not going to sell. What I've been doing is putting a tickler in my system to touch back in 6 months, but then putting them on my monthly newsletter, real estate newsletter. Is that an advisable approach?
That's a great idea. So
Perfect.
what I've found is a lot of spouses that tell you, I'm not selling, I'll die here, I'll never leave. Things can change quickly at that stage of life. You know, your health can quickly decline, the property maintenance can get out of hand. So a lot of times within that 6-month period, they will be forced or highly motivated to sell, to downsize. So it's very, and a lot of people are hesitant to call spouses, and honestly, the majority are going to sell the property because it's going to become overwhelming at some point because of their health or because of the property maintenance. So absolutely keep them on your follow-up.
Excellent. And Tim, you had a comment to that also?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add is that if somebody tells you that they're overwhelmed, one of the things that typically that's one of their pain points is that, I can sure understand that. And just as Chad said, you talk just a tiny little bit about why, but more importantly, if part of the stuff that they're upset about, if her mom just passed away, you can ask questions real quick, like about things having to do with, well, I'm sure that's probably the case. I imagine the house is filled with your mom's furniture. Is that right? And if she says, oh, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Well, now you've got a perfect lead in to talk about the fact that, well, that's something you can help with. We have people that come in, do estate sales after you've kind of gone through and looked at all of the things that you're doing and you want to keep, then they can certainly help you with that, and we can help you with a cleaning crew and all that sort of stuff and really make that easy. And it gives you the opportunity to put out there all of the wonderful things that you offer that a realtor who's just coming to help get that listing or want that listing isn't going to have the opportunity to offer. So you've planted a much deeper seed by asking one more follow-up question, and is the house filled with furniture is one of those great questions to ask.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great call, guys, and thank you for everybody hanging on. We have one more person, and then we will wrap it up. Phone number ending in 3880. You're up.
Hi there. Ginny, again, from New York.
Hey, Ginny from New York. Yep.
Sat on your call yesterday. Very
Wonderful.
helpful.
Good.
And what is the best way, you guys had touched on it, and I just want to explore a little differently or deeper. What is the best way to try to learn how the probate process works in New York? And I think it's different in upstate New York from downstate New York, because I know our real estate practices are different upstate than downstate. And I know you had said take the county clerk out to lunch, I think it was, or something like that. I don't see that happening here. It's a highly political job, and I don't think they're all that interested in going out to lunch with somebody they don't know. Any other advice on that?
Yeah, so we shared, like in the webinar we did yesterday, I think you were on that, right?
Yeah.
So kind of the three ideas were, from easiest to hardest, I suppose. Google probate court, your county. So probate court, Ithaca County. And then just see what you can find. Some states who, if you have a more progressive government that's got most everything electronic and, the courthouse is a little more tech savvy, a lot of times, like especially in California, you can get everything. I mean, they offer the whole probate code right online. So you can go as deep as you want without ever speaking with anyone. Another good resource, if you go to alltheleads.com and in the center of the menu, look under FAQs and then click on probate FAQ. That's not going to teach you specifics about your county, but it's going to give you a really good understanding of the overall probate process and general across the country. The suggestion we made about meeting with the probate clerk is meet them on their turf. They are a public employee. And what I did to kind of soften that was I went to Starbucks and got one of those 4-pack, a 6-pack of coffee or whatever. And I just, handed out coffee and smiles until I was sitting with the probate clerk, and I'm like, I've been helping more and more families, and I'm frankly kind of embarrassed that I don't know this process better than I do. Can you please help me? And those are magic words. It empowers anyone when you say, can you please help me? So just ask them if they can walk you through the process. If you're not comfortable with that or you think it's just not going to work in your market, then just pick up the phone and do the same thing. Hi, this is Jenny with PPC Realty. Listen, I'm helping a family that's in probate right now, and I feel like I really need to understand this process. Can you take 5 minutes and help me? Just kind of explain it. and they'll spend more than 5 minutes, but just use that to open it.
Okay. All right.
That helps. I did it in Northern California.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like I helped a client do this, and they were incredibly helpful. Like we had to go through 3 layers of people until we got to the right person. But once we did, she was like a wealth of information. So it's don't be intimidated by it. I mean, their job is to help you.
Right.
What I was going to add, I always feel obligated when we get a question like this. It's a great question because it shows you want to understand, you want knowledge, and you can't have too much knowledge. But relatively speaking, this is a pretty easy process. Get your lead, send a letter, follow up with the phone call, and these people are really just motivated absentee owners. And and all of the legal process is going to be handled by the attorney. But the more knowledgeable you get, the more you're going to be able to speak to the attorneys and prospect them down the road. So knowledge is great, but don't get overwhelmed. Not take any action until you know everything. That's a mistake we see too many agents make because it's a relatively simple process. It really is, and it's pretty much the same all across the country.
Now, looking at the spreadsheet, I know that at one of the other calls, you guys had explained that the last place of residency for the deceased was not necessarily a parcel of real estate for them. So, and then I heard one of the callers just now, a few minutes ago, say that he only sends out to people who have real estate. Am I missing something? Is there something where they owned? Maybe I didn't look at it right.
No, you're right on both accounts. So he was probably assuming that the last known, about 75% of the time, that the last known address is going to be the residence, but and that varies greatly across the country. But it really is a mistake to assume that to be the case. They may have died in a nursing home, hospice, so don't automatically assume that. No, and the only way to really know for sure what real estate is owned is to call the executor and or the attorney. But we recommend call the executor, and that's a good question to lead with. Guys, this call went way over. Thank you so much to everybody who participated. Like I said, I think one of the themes were everybody is getting good leads, it sounds like, and that's a good problem to have. Now we just got to turn them into listings. So I always end these calls by challenging everybody. Take one idea, one thought, one thing that you heard on today's call. Go out next week and put it into action, and please come back next Thursday and share your results with us. Make it a great week, guys. We'll talk to you next Thursday. Thanks for coming. Take care.